Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks, Ben.
My pleasure, my pleasure. It's always good to have another podcaster on the line as well. I always feel under pressure when there's another podcaster because you know how this all works and what to expect.
Absolutely, I'm taking notes. I'll give you a full assessment at the end, and we'll see how we go.
I expect so. Thank you very much. I was keen to get you on the show because I keep hearing about your business. The name keeps popping up everywhere at the moment, and having spoken to you and heard more about the product, I'm really excited to explore the journey because there was a lot about the product that I didn't realize before we spoke. If you could tell me a bit about your earlier career and how you actually got into this wonderful world of software and development.
How did I get into software and development? Well, I mean, I was very fortunate to get a computer when I was very, very young. Not many kids had a proper business type computer. I'm not talking like a games console or something like that. But, I had one of those old IBM XTs, and you throw the power switch and the house lights dim as the hard disk starts to spin up like a 747. It was pretty wild. So I was very early into writing my own games and software, and it was just a hobby that I had all through life and really enjoyed it. But how I got into this role, I spent about 10 years of my life being a volunteer, which was really interesting. And one of the things in the volunteer world is that there's an apparency of time available, but really it's the most valuable resource that not-for-profit and volunteer has, because the time of their volunteers is irreplaceable, right? And I really started getting into building software systems while I was that volunteer that helped improve the efficiency of that organization and what we were doing and how we were doing it and removing the manual work. And I really got this idea of time being the thing that software should be solving. And then when that whole volunteering period ended, I came out to start building my own business. And that has led me from one thing to another to building this StoreConnect product on top of Salesforce. And throughout all of it, it's always been, how can we improve things or, change the process to improve functions and time? I mean, funny story, while I was in this volunteer organization, there was an email handling library that we were using in the Ruby programming language. And I'm getting a bit technical here and geeking out on it, but it was called Tmail back in the day. And Tmail had this problem where if it read an email that was incorrect or malformed, it would just delete it. Or it would actually blow up and raise an exception and crash the whole computer. So I had this brainwave that, well, if the inbound messages are malformed, well, almost all spam messages are malformed. So why don't I just, instead of crashing, why don't I just delete that email because it must be spam? Right? I'll just get rid of it. Genius, right? So I turned this on one day, and then about a day later, one of the really senior executives came down and said, "Do you know where all my email is?" And I'm feeling a bit no, but why would that be a problem? And it turned out that everyone that she communicated to, all of her managers used Outlook, and Outlook sends malformed emails. So my system was just basically deleting every email that was coming in. So at that point I went, well, I need to rewrite the email handling library. How hard could that be? And I sat down, and I think there's 27 requests for comment RFCs on the internet on how to actually build an email library. So about 6 months later, I released the Mail Gem, and that was basically how I learnt Ruby and how to program it. And the Mail Gem's gone on to be downloaded, 600 million times or something like that. Pretty much everyone on this podcast has probably received an email from my software. So, it was just it's been a very interesting journey of the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. It was very unplanned and unscripted, but it's worked out really well.
Yeah, nice. That's incredible. I didn't know that. That's awesome to know. I think it's also important that we talk about the business prior that you're still running, but that kind of led into StoreConnect, because we'll uncover then how StoreConnect came to be. So StoreConnect is now a business, but alongside that, you run another. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I stopped volunteering, the first thing I did was I started a company called Reinteractive, which was a software development consultancy, and it's basically developers for hire. It's a mercenary organization. We come in and find the problem, fix it, and get out. And we also build software apps and things like this. And And that was a really interesting business to have because you were dealing with so many different client problems continuously. And it really gave me a good ability to see through the apparent problem to what the underlying situation actually is. And while I was doing that business, I kept having clients come up to me and say, hey, can you build us a bespoke e-commerce product, like ground up? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I can take you $300,000 to do that, but why aren't you using Shopify? It was a real interesting moment for me because here are people willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for something that I thought was a commodity, and was just sitting there for anyone to use. And after talking to them, I found out why. And that eventually led into launching StoreConnect as a separate entity. So we actually built StoreConnect as the first version within Reinteractive and got all that running and, used some of our consulting profits to plow it back into the software side until StoreConnect was big enough to become a going concern, and then expanded that out and, split the team and took some of the team to StoreConnect and some of the team stayed in Reinteractive and added some managers, and there was a whole heap of personnel stuff. But yeah, that's how that worked. And that was about probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago now.
So when you were getting all these people come to you asking you to build this product, and then obviously you thought there was a solution for them already, but then you decided actually there is a business here. What was the early vision of that business? Like, what problem were you solving, and where did you expect the business to go?
So the problem that clients were bringing to me was not that Shopify or WooCommerce or BigCommerce were bad. They all communicated that those platforms in of themselves were fantastic front-end platforms. Like, they do the job really well. And if all you want to do is, sell a pair of AirPods or something, or, sell a product, and you've got this idea and you want to sell it, and there's my widget and I'm going to get it up and get it done, boom, done. Shopify is fantastic. And all of them are. Like, they all solve that problem of the actual transaction. But what none of them really solved for the client was, how do I build my business on this? And it's a really interesting change of viewpoint here, because you might think naively that if you're an e-commerce store, well, your business is e-commerce, right? But there's so much more to that. There's, how do I track all my customers? Who's bought what over what period of time? What marketing campaigns are going out to them? How do I do order fulfillment? How do I handle warehousing? How do I do stock takes? How do I integrate with third-party systems to do address verification checks or customer validations, or if they are over the age of 18, if I need to do that? Or how do I handle customer support, ongoing support, late level? How do I do local field service? How do I send a technician out to go and repair the thing that we just sold online that is too big to ship back? There's all of these problems that sit around e-commerce. And when you really think about it, in any company, e-commerce is just your sales team, fundamentally, in many cases. And it leaks a little bit into delivery and stuff. So what the clients were saying was that, look, the website's fine. We could use Shopify. That's not the problem. But we need access to all of this back-end data, and we need to be able to program it and modify it and modify the processes to fit our business, not force us to change our business to fit in with the way that Shopify thinks it needs to be done, or WooCommerce. And that was a real aha moment for me, right? Because the clients that aren't really interested in scaling and growing their business, they've got their niche, it's working well, it's fine. Well, they can afford to change their business to match Shopify, and that's fine. That's their business. But those businesses that have visions of expansion and scaling, and they need reports and they want dynamic updates and all this sort of stuff, they can't be effectively hobbled to that business model, whether it's right or wrong. They need to be able to adapt and modify and change. And that's where I went, oh, wait a minute, because Reinteractive at the time was doing, and still does, is one of the leading companies in the world that builds web applications that connect to Salesforce. And Salesforce is the world's number one CRM. Like it or hate it, it's incredibly powerful. There's nothing else like it out there. And I basically had the brilliant idea, I think. I'm still waiting for it to be really brilliant, but we'll see. To build e-commerce, like what if I took Shopify and WordPress, the key functions, the best functions of those, what if I took that and I built them on top of and within Salesforce? And that would then give the customers, our clients, full capability to do and modify the system in whatever way they needed to make it fit their business, while also providing that very quick, fast front end to attract the customers and provide that e-commerce function. And that was really the genesis of StoreConnect. And I saw a absolutely insanely huge market for that, because there's a lot of businesses out there that want to scale.
What about the Salesforce commerce products? Because I think a lot, like I'm not exactly sure of the timelines, but that must have been a consideration, right? Like, does Salesforce already have this, or is this something that they could introduce quickly, or are we an acquisition target for them? That kind of thinking.
Yeah, what happens in the future happens in the future. But when I first came up with StoreConnect, I thought it was $1 billion idea, right? I went, oh my, this is amazing. This will become a unicorn. This is just incredible. And then I went and Googled it and found that Salesforce had Commerce Cloud and they just bought it from Demandware for $1 billion. And I went, okay, well, I was right. I mean, that's good. It was $1 billion idea. I'm just like 2 years too late. But then I found out that product is very squarely targeted at the very top end of the market. You know, you need to be, I mean, you don't have to be like Macy's or L'Oreal, but you need to be a large enough brand that you can afford hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of investment to build that product. And the Commerce Cloud product, to be clear, it's mind-blowingly good. Like, there is a lot of power in that. But does a small to medium business need that? No. You know, they need things which are going to create that customer engagement. And then I looked a bit further and I thought I was sort of reinvigorated and go, well, maybe it is $1 billion idea. And then I found that Salesforce had bought CloudCraze as their B2B commerce solution. And I went, oh, okay, well, I've been twice right. But then we found that product didn't really fit this market either. You know, it's more of a mid-market solution. So that just, you know, at that point, I'd spoken to so many clients and so many partners that it was obvious that StoreConnect would be a success. And to that end, I actually ended up selling the first 3 licenses before we'd actually built it. I think I spent a month prototyping it just to make sure that my theory would actually work on how to make it fast and also connected and synchronized. We did a month of that, proved it, and then I went to market and I think I sold my first 3 licenses in a month or so. And that completely filled our development and production capacity for the next 6 months, just straight out the bat. So it was one of those products that sold itself. And when clients see it now, the most common complaint we get from clients is, why didn't we hear about you 6 months ago or a year ago? Like, that's our number one, by far, reason for rejection and losing a sale.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so it's interesting because you were in a fairly unique position in that you identified the opportunity, but you're not like someone that's employed in a team where you've got to kind of hack and build this in your own time. Like, you had a development team.
Yeah, I mean, I still did a lot of hacking and building in my own time. But yes, I have and had a development team. It was not all roses, though. Like, this whole thing happened through COVID. Like, that happened during it. There were points where, you know, I mortgaged the house to the hilt so I didn't have to fire anyone during the COVID period. You know, things like this. It was a pretty intense period of time to actually pull through. But you're right. Not many people are running a development consultancy when they have the bright idea for a startup. That was sort of by plan, though. Like, I started Reinteractive because I wasn't sure what SaaS product I wanted to build. And so in the meantime, I got to learn and meet an incredible number of incredibly talented engineers and was able to then basically cherry pick an organization out of that as we grew. And, you know, Reinteractive still exists. I've got a CEO, I've got a sales team, a COO, I've got developers, you know, production managers, development managers, all this. running and growing Reinteractive, and that's continued to grow alongside StoreConnect growing. So, it's been really good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think like with your background and the fact you were running Reinteractive, that's why you saw the opportunity, I guess, because a lot of people wouldn't have seen that opportunity. But you also had the potential client straight away, right? So you said you had 3 clients, you sold it before the product was built. How important were they in shaping the product? Because they also had the need, right? So were you using them as a sounding board? Were they like on that journey with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when we built our first 3, each one of those was a completely bespoke set of source code and solution. So it was not a SaaS product for the first 3. The second 3 also were not SaaS. They were all bespoke as well. I think it was our 7th product or our 7th or 8th client that we started moving it to a SaaS model, but they still had separate code repositories. So I think by year 2, we had maybe 10 or 12 of these running, and all of them were on different code repositories, and it was a bit of a nightmare. And at that point, we started consolidating, and we're 7 years later, and we still have 2 clients on their own repositories, right? So it's taking a huge amount of work to bring all those divergent code bases back into one. And that's just taught us so many things. And I don't know if we could have done it the other way, to be honest, because what this method gave us was we can build a solution, rapidly iterate on it, make the customer happy, like our client, make them happy without having to build out every possible edge case, right? Because we just had to build what they need for them. And then do the same for the next client. And then by the 3rd or 4th, we now sort of have a commonality of feature between these 4 clients. And we can see what we can leave out and what we need to keep in order to merge them into one. And that's really put us in a really good position because it allowed us to very rapidly iterate on one client to make them happy and get their features and products out without having to wait for us to build the ultimate solution that covered, 20 or 30 clients. It was a very, very expensive way to do it, I have to say, both in time and money. And it bit us a number of times, but every journey is different. And this product, it is a SaaS product. You can now just go and sign up for it and put your credit card down and you have it. But because we're built on top of Salesforce, it requires a certain level of knowledge and administrative training in order to install it. So the requirements for the product to be very flexible is very, very high. And even though every one of our clients is now on the SaaS product, every one of their installations is bespoke. And that was the second problem that we ran into, which is how could we even install all of these clients, because every one of them needed one-on-one work in their Salesforce org. And so we also learned very quickly that we couldn't do the implementations. So then we cancelled all implementations, which was another insanely expensive process because a great way to be profitable as a SaaS is to charge up front for some setup, right? And then you go in and you fix it for them and you can bill an extra $5,000 or $10,000 and that's an upfront revenue that you can then keep and, as opposed to your recurring, which comes over years. And we don't do that. And the reason we don't do it is every one of our clients is in a different vertical. So we have someone in manufacturing, someone in healthcare, someone in bike sales, someone in beauty products. Like they're totally different verticals. So we actually started partnering with Salesforce partners. And we started our partner program where they would implement StoreConnect and keep the revenue for that. And we would just get the SaaS revenue. So again, another very expensive decision in the short term that should really pay off in the long term. Because I think in the last 2 and a bit years, we've signed up over 85 Salesforce partners worldwide, maybe closer to 90 now, which is ridiculous speed.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of the numbers of people they have that are there then available to implement your product, I guess it gives you so much more reach. But that must have been a difficult decision to make at the time because, like you said, you are walking away from revenue. You've got customers that want your product. You've got the product.
I don't know if it was difficult, but it was very expensive.
Well, what was the considerations, I guess, of that? Was it purely the scale? Like you knew you didn't have the team in place?
Yeah. So what would happen was I would sell StoreConnect because I was the main salesperson. I got some other salespeople involved as well, but we would go out to market and basically sell StoreConnect and sell out our implementation capacity for 6 months in a month. And then basically I couldn't sell anything for another 6 months because I had nowhere to implement it, right? And the only solution I could have to that is hire a lot of Salesforce admins, right? But the way that you make money as a Salesforce consulting company is you focus on a niche or a certain type of client where your team get trained on how to do the things that that client needs in a very efficient manner so that you're not having to learn it every single time for every new different type of client. The problem with StoreConnect is we're vertical agnostic, right? I mean, we have a government organization that runs parks and wildlife in the US coming online this week, next month. We have a company that sells children's reading books. I mean, like, it's just so different across we have a company in Brisbane called Stoddart, who are amazing clients, who manufacture pretty much everything, literally including kitchen sinks, So there's so many levels of different types of client that we couldn't hire developers who then could get efficiencies in the implementations. So then it was driving up the cost of our implementations, which we couldn't do because then the clients would leave, which meant it was costing us money to do it. So that was a really interesting situation that ran into why we had to go to the partner network, because with the partners, they can get those efficiencies. So they can then focus on their niche, they can get it done, they can give it to the client at a good enough price while we go ahead and keep building the product and focusing on that.
So how difficult was that to stand up, like that partner-led implementation model? Because the partners know Salesforce but wouldn't have known your product.
Very, very hard. So we had a couple of partners at the start that got a couple of sales in, and then we ended up doing most of the implementation anyway, right? But for the StoreConnect side. But they could do all the heavy lifting for Salesforce. So they would do what they knew how to do, and then we would come in and help do the other side, but we wouldn't get paid for it, right? So the partner got just more profit on that. But truth be told, the product had so many rough edges that the partner sort of had to put up with a bit of pain in order to get this done anyway. So anyway, it was swings and roundabouts. And then as we did that, we started building up all of our training resources and materials. And we now have free online interactive courses that you actually work with another human, like one of our support team talks to you and marks you through your progress through running a StoreConnect website and getting it built and doing all the features and all that sort of stuff. So we got busy building up that course, and then we published that course. And once we published those courses, we then changed the partner tiering that if you don't have any certified team members, then you're at the bottom tier instead of the top tier. And so now we're encouraging behavior for those partners to get more trained and more up there. And it's starting to pay dividends now, but it's taken 3 years.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's like when you're building the plane and flying it, and you're like, you would have been busy, right?
Off the cliff.
Well, yeah, and you've got so much work, like you've got all these opportunities, there's so much demand out there, and then you're thinking long term, right? We need to build a certification program for these partners. Like that would have been an easy thing to be like nice to have, but not urgent. It could have easily been pushed down but now in hindsight, it just makes loads of sense, right?
Critical to have. And extremely urgent. Yeah, and it's one of those problems with this business model is that I don't know, it's one of the things that I enjoy about it, to be honest, is you have to be 6 months to a year looking forward. You know, what scaling problem are we going to hit on this? And how do we start putting something in place so that when we get there, it's at least manageable, if not, completely solved. But the training programs were very important, and we released them in November. And I think last year we got our admin certificate out. And I think we crossed 150 admins done on the certification within like 4 months or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was pretty wild. the uptake.
And it's important to add as well, it's not like you said, it's not just like multiple choice questions. Like you are making sure that
I don't think there is one multiple choice question on it.
Yeah, you're making sure that people are building in a sandbox the proper way, setting up customers for success.
Yeah, the way we actually run the program, and we get a lot of positive feedback on this from the trainees, is that the course tells you to go and fire up a Salesforce sandbox or a development org, install the package, and then you have to invite your instructor. You give our instructors access to that org, that Salesforce environment. And then as you do each step, our instructor logs into your org and checks your work and makes sure you've done it right. And again, another non-scalable thing, but it gave us a huge amount of feedback on different questions that needed to be fixed or changed, or stumbling blocks where we needed to add more background data, where there was too much assumed knowledge and things like this, which has just created much more competent admins. And it also means that sometimes on a course, the thing that frustrates me is when you're doing a course, it tells you to do A, B, and C, and you're going, yeah, but what about D and E? Like, I know it can do D and E. I have no idea how to do it. And then you're off on this whole rabbit hole trying to figure out how to do D and E. Well, our students just ask the supervisor and they go, hey, how do I do D and E? And the instructor goes, here's the help article. Why don't you do it and I'll just check your work?
Yeah, nice.
And instantly you get that application straight away. We've actually had clients, which I think is an unintended consequence of this, but it's really cool, who do their administrative course as part of setting up their own StoreConnect environment in their production org.
Yeah, awesome.
Like it becomes a guided installation service, which is great. We win, we get a happy client. The client wins, they don't have to pay, lots of money to get this done. And we get a certified administrator who loves the product, and when they go to their next job, brings us in.
And am I right in saying that a lot of your customers that are signing up aren't existing Salesforce customers?
About 50% of our clients are new to Salesforce.
Which is wild, right? I mean, Salesforce must love you, but that's such a,
Well, no one buys Salesforce for DocuSign. Right?
Yeah. So that's true.
So yeah, that's something that when I tell Salesforce executives, their eyebrows go up. It's very not common.
The thing is that amazes me about that is your addressable market is huge, right? It's basically anyone that sells anything. Like you've got government departments, and obviously I appreciate you're not trying to play in that kind of commerce cloud world. Like it's fast growing small businesses that want to get somewhere fast and scale.
Well, yeah, but also think of a government organization, right? So would we sell StoreConnect to the Australian government? Maybe not. But we might sell StoreConnect to a department of the Australian government that needs to sell little tags, and they only sell like a licensing body, right? That might sell 20 licenses a month to a park or something. That's a small business within a very, very big one.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have Sharp Electronics use StoreConnect. They are not a small business. I can guarantee you that very much. But their website in Australia, you can't buy anything. It's all a referral website to their partners. So that's a perfect use of StoreConnect where, it's the target client we've got, to your point, is really every business that has a website who is qualified by and wants to get better control of their CRM and customer data, or is already on Salesforce, right? So it's not quite anyone, because you do have to buy Salesforce and you need a business reason to be doing that. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I'll just get Salesforce because I need StoreConnect. But yeah, that is a very, very big market. So basically, I think Salesforce has about 250,000 customers worldwide. So pretty much, I don't know, 80 or 90% of them would qualify for StoreConnect in the right market fit. And then you have at least that again in companies that I'm sure Salesforce want to get. So yeah. And then when you help, this is a good tip that is blindingly obvious, but needs to be said, is that if you depend or want to work with a very large organization on anything about growing your business, find out how your business dramatically improves the ability for that larger company to sell, and they'll beat a path to your door, right? Because sales in every organization is always the hardest thing. So we have account executives at Salesforce that just swear by us because we've won them like 5 deals in the last year and a half.
Yeah, I can imagine. But with that comes a challenge in itself, right? The addressable market is so big. So how do you
focus?
Well, yeah, like, I mean, it's not like you're targeting, the top 10% of companies in Australia already on the Salesforce platform. It's like you pretty much probably every day come across a company that you might engage with in your own personal life and you think our product would work for you. I've even,
Absolutely,
ever since we spoke, I've gone away and thought, that would be a good use case. Like there's just so many different ideas.
Yeah, for your website. Exactly. I'll send over the order form now.
Yeah. But no, you
the world's first on podcast SaaS
that's
sale.
It,
there
yeah.
we go.
But you gave me a good idea when we spoke about loyalty, right? Customer loyalty points. And in recruitment, there isn't really anything. You just kind of, oh, great, yeah, thanks. On your way. Like, I think that loyalty model is great for recruitment, and that's probably even something that people don't know or don't think about when they think of your product. But the other thing I think people, and this is definitely from my experience and what I've thought about the product before, I get the Shopify bit and I didn't get the WordPress bit.
Yeah, that it's also a content management system. It is a bit of a mind-blowing thing when clients really understand what our product does. They go, it does all that? Like they're a little taken aback, because when you install StoreConnect into your Salesforce org, you can turn off, because Salesforce handles your marketing and your CRM. So anything you're doing with that, you can turn off. You can turn off your WordPress website, your multiple WordPress websites, because we can run multiple within the one StoreConnect environment. You can turn off your multiple Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, whatever stores, and have all of that run out of one pane of glass and one login to your Salesforce environment and run that entire thing. And when you have all of that data coming into one system, I mean, on top of that, we're also a full point of sale platform for retail and rewards and loyalty, like think Qantas frequent flyer points and things like that. So plus subscriptions, plus bookings of appointments for people, book in for this time for a health check or an update or a car service. The number of things that we can actually do is pretty wild. And with all of that in one platform, it means you can program in some of the business intelligence. Like one of the examples I use all the time for an e-commerce site is you can have a little workflow in Salesforce running that every hour takes the top best-selling products in your store and updates a content block on the homepage of your website with those products, right? So why would that be useful? Well, say someone shared an article on LinkedIn or something about a product that they really love, and people start coming to your store and buying it. The first few people are going to have to go and find it. Like they land on your store, they search for it, they look for it, all that sort of thing. Your Salesforce org sits there and goes, this product's selling more than anything else. I'm going to put it at position 1 on our frequently purchased list. So now it shows up right at the top of the homepage, most popular products being purchased right now. And so the 10th or 12th person that comes along, when they land on your homepage, there's the product sitting there right at the top of the page, ready to be clicked on, right? And this sort of comes back to my thing about anything that removes time is generally good. Probably the corollary is more true, which is anything that adds time to your customer's experience of your business is an enemy to your organization and business, right? So you want to remove that as much as possible. And this is where having that power, and then conversely, say you run out of stock on that. Say it's become so popular, it's now run out of stock. You have that same workflow, remove it from the front of the page because now it's out of stock. Or leave it there with a big out of stock and change it to a back order link. Do you know what I mean? Like there's all of this stuff can be programmed, and it really comes down to your imagination then on what you want to build. And that's really, I would say, the number one competitive advantage of StoreConnect is not that we're not a better Shopify than Shopify or a better WordPress than WordPress. We're not trying to be. We're trying to get very close in terms of, feature parity. What we're trying to be is the ultimate dynamic ability to program your business and have it feed back into itself in order to drive your success and sales in whatever form you can come up with. And that's really powerful.
And the one thing, I mean, Salesforce is a platform that can be easily edited, changed, manipulated. And that's one of the things when we first sat down that really stood out to me was how quickly you can make an edit on a live website in Salesforce, like change a word, change pretty much anything instantly. And I know as a business owner, if I want something changed on my WordPress website, I can't do it myself. I've got a developer that we use, that we reach out to. Can be, it could be who's great, but it's a couple of days delayed to get things done. But I can,
or they're busy, or they're sick, or whatever.
Yeah, but I can go into my own Salesforce org and change fields, add drop down. I can do all of that. So having it connected into my Salesforce org, giving me that instant power would be amazing. And I think that's something that maybe people don't appreciate if they don't know Salesforce as well as others.
Yeah, and other little things like, so you're a recruitment agency, and your clients, you have like a two-sided client marketplace, which is really interesting, right? But if I was hiring you to find someone, right, and you had that whole loyalty thing in place, and then when I log into my dashboard, you might have in there number of successful placements as a number that shows up on my dashboard as one of your clients, one of your corporate clients that's hiring you, or some extra datum that you want to put on there that no e-commerce platform in the world would have, because it's completely bespoke to your business. Well, in Salesforce and StoreConnect, you just go and add that to the account record. You add that extra field, whatever it is, and you put whatever text you want on it. And then you tell StoreConnect to synchronize that to your front end with a very simple little command. And then it's available on the front end. And whenever you change it in Salesforce, it's now automatically changed in StoreConnect. We had a B2B customer that did, a common thing with B2B is different clients have different prices, right? So if you're buying 1 million widgets a month, your price is going to be cheaper than the guy that's buying 100 widgets a month. I mean, that just makes sense, right? So this client had, I think, 6 tiers of their pricing across all of their accounts. And what they did, which I think is genius, is because StoreConnect was now fully integrated with their Salesforce organization, they had a Salesforce workflow that just fired off every day and looked at the people who are about to go over the month, which then qualifies them for the new tier the following month. And 4 days before that tier cutoff date, they would email them and say, you only have $5,300 worth of ordering to do to qualify you for the next level of discount, which based on this month would save you $4,000 or $5,000, right? So, if you buy the same this month as next month, you're going to save more money than you need to spend in order to attain that saving, right? And their sales just went through the roof at the end of every month, right? Because the clients went, well, that's a no-brainer. But now they're at their new level. That's the new base waterline level. So now they don't want to go below it. So now they're just going to spend more overall. And it's a win-win-win. The clients get it cheaper for what they need. And these sorts of things that you can program in to Salesforce, it's really wild. And then having that full capability with StoreConnect, because there's nothing to update. It's all automatic. And then the client logs into StoreConnect and instantly, as soon as they've made that extra $5,000 purchase, bam, the price book changes over within the next 5 seconds, and the next time they do a purchase, it's at the new pricing. So this is really powerful stuff.
And it all integrates with CPQ as well, I believe.
Yeah, so we have a CPQ. We're the only e-commerce product in the world that works with CPQ.
Yeah, wow.
Actually.
So talking of the world, I know you've been on a bit of a road trip recently. I've seen you've been on a plane you've been in the US, you've been in London as well, I think.
Yep. And Dublin.
Yeah, nice. So
4 cities in the US, 4 or 5. Yeah. I've lost track. Qantas love me now. I bet, yeah. You know you're flying a lot when you get on an international Qantas flight and you say hello again to the same hostess that flew you a month before. Yeah. It's happened to me twice now, which is just wild.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. Because obviously, like a lot of companies, like software is borderless, right? There's different requirements, different countries and things like that. But people that are looking to build a product and they're based out of Australia, we're so far away from anything. How have you found going into different regions? What have you learned from that experience so far?
I think the first thing, you need to know what your product is and how to sell it. You don't want to be figuring that out while you're also trying to figure out a new culture. The internet has made the world a very connected and close place, but there is no substitute for shaking someone's hand. And the way that we've approached international expansion is strategic alliances, like with partners. So identifying a partner, getting that in, going and sponsoring some really key events. It's been a very, very expensive journey, I have to say. I've said that word a lot in this podcast, expensive, but it's true. You know, that the SaaS companies, you're building a factory and you don't make money until that factory is just producing at high speed, right? But yeah, running to different countries has been really eye-opening. Every country has slightly different ways that they do business, and you really need to find someone in that region. If you want to expand into a foreign market, I highly recommend hiring someone in that foreign market to be your representative and then just going over and spending a lot of time with them so that they already have some communication lines to kickstart the business a bit. Because starting from zero is really hard.
Yeah, I think the whole boots on the ground thing, like people value that, right? They can see that you're, especially Salesforce as well. I've been told in the past, like if you're looking to go into a new region, they like to see that you're on the ground. They like to have that presence. Then they can trust that you're taking it seriously and that you're investing in building as well as them.
Yeah. And you get to complain at the meeting that you just got off a 17-hour flight. So that's good.
For sure. So you mentioned that at the beginning of the journey, you were selling the product, like you were winning the customers. How has your role changed over the years? And yeah, I guess like to finish off as well, what are the plans now moving forward? We knew what the vision was when you started, but where's the business going over the next few years?
I still sell a lot. That's a big part of my job, is talking to clients and partners and briefing them and giving them ideas and doing things like this. This is sales to whatever degree. So that's a lot of my day. There is more management as you increase. And the other challenge with going international is the international tax compliance. That has been an absolute nightmare. That is not fun, but necessary. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff in that. But I even still get to code. You know, 2 weekends ago, I found a performance bug that really annoyed me, and I spent the weekend happily coding away and fixed the bug and released it. And it was great. I'm like, bit of founder code there as a code base. So, yeah, your role as a founder goes from being the product to creating the organization that creates the product. And that's a hard transition to take if you're not prepared for it. Because you need to, instead of doing everything yourself, find brilliant people and trust them enough to do it. So that's really where my role's moving to, as expected. Where we're going in the future, we're going to keep growing. You know, at some point, you know, we did a seed round last year, which was great in the middle of when everyone was saying you couldn't do seed rounds. We did a very, very good one. We plan to probably do a Series A next year and continue to grow it. And the reason I'm going the fundraised route, so we were bootstrapped for the first 6 years. And now I'm taking money. But the reason I'm taking money now is we've got a product. It's got product market fit. We know it works. We've got a lot of clients saying this is amazing. The only real thing we need now is just telling a huge number of people about it. And that's expensive. It either takes a long time, like 10 plus years, or it takes a lot of money. So that's what we plan to use further fundraising for, is just trumpet it everywhere we can. And then where the future takes us, we'll either, I don't know, IPO it at some point, or private venture, or maybe Salesforce will go, you know what, that's a great product, we want it, boom. Who knows? There's a lot of potential outcomes, but it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, and exciting. All of those sound exciting. So, and I'm like I said, I'm hearing everything. It keeps popping up everywhere. So I'm excited to see, 1, 2, 3 years down the line where things are. And I'd love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I'll come back on your podcast and we'll give you an update.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back on. We can see what the next phase of growth has looked like, and yeah, really excited. But thank you so much. It's really been great to have you on the show. I'm sure our listeners are going to love hearing the story. And if anyone does want to reach out, pick your brains, ask any questions, where's the best place to find you?
LinkedIn probably is the best. Mikel Lindsaar, Mikel Lindsaar. Of course, for StoreConnect, just go to getstoreconnect.com. no spaces.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ben. See you later.